Josh, thanks for being here, man. Or thanks for letting me be here.
Yeah, welcome to the warehouse.
I love seeing everything, like walking in where you drop all the stuff through the basketball hoops.
Yes,
That
it's a famous wall.
it's
right
a
now,
very
a ledge.
very cool wall, and just happy to be here, man, and happy to actually get to talk to you. For people who don't know, who are you? What do you do? And how'd you kind of get started?
I'm Josh Horton. I make videos for a living. I've done that since about 2016, 2017. There was kind of a phase. So backing up more, I was a professional juggler for a while. So I made a living doing NBA and college halftime shows, and those were, while I was making a living doing that, I still had a lot of free time, and a friend of ours was starting a social media agency. So then I ended up working for a social media agency while also performing. And after about 4 years, and this is early social media, like we were running Facebook pages and that stuff for brands. So I quit that job to focus on juggling, but I'd learned so much about social media. Then I started posting videos online, and that's kind of where that took off. And so there was a little bit of a 2016, 2017 was like some social media, some performing, but then eventually it just became just video.
How did you get into the halftime show stuff? That's really interesting.
Yeah, so as a professional juggler in the United States, there's only so many options. Like, to make a real living. You can't make a real living. Well, it's possible. I won't say that, but doing birthday. There's like the $150 grinds of doing birthday parties or libraries or whatever, which people do and they crush it. But if you want to make a real living, you want to do as few shows as possible. And so it's like colleges, cruise ships, halftime shows, and corporate events. And I was all prepared to do the hour-long cruise ship thing because that made sense. And you have a cruise ship show, you can do it for colleges. And then I found out for halftime shows, you can make the same amount of money with a 5-minute show. And I've always loved sports. So then I started juggling basketballs and doing a basketball-themed act. And so that's when I started doing all the NBA and college halftime shows.
Well, and you never did a cruise ship or anything?
I ended up never doing a single cruise ship, or a college show, yeah.
I didn't even know about cruise ship juggling.
Oh, yeah. Every cruise ship has one night on the ship, there's a magician or a ventriloquist or a juggler or some sort of variety act.
Interesting. I've never been on a cruise, so
you gotta go.
that's
They're
how
fun.
that's how
They're
I don't
fun.
know.
I do love cruises. That was the other thing. I was like, I could get paid to go on cruises.
That's super crazy. Okay, so then you did all the.
I lied. I've been paid to juggle on one cruise. I got the Dude Perfect had their own cruise ship, and they hired me. But I did a little bit of juggling, but mainly I hosted like a trick shot challenge for kids.
How did that come about?
Their company just reached out when they were planning this cruise. I think they were trying to get acts that fulfill that cruise ship vibe, but also have a social media following. So it was me and Rick Smith Jr., who's the card throwing magician who had been in their videos and does a magic show.
So you're like 2017. You said you kind of went into the social media thing.
Yeah.
So you quit there, and then you quit the agency to go back to juggling.
And then with all my free time, I was just filming videos kind of just for fun. Wow. Started combining juggling with trick shots, and then learned people like trick shots more than juggling. Surprise, surprise. And so then just started. And like I played high school basketball for 1 year before I quit to focus on juggling. So I'd always loved basketball and trick shots and all that. So it wasn't like I was like giving up on juggling to do this other thing. But started doing trick shot videos, and yeah, that's just kind of where the whole social media thing took off. It started with just like strictly the most difficult possible trick shot I could do, and then it's obviously things have changed over the years of what I do. But that was kind of the start. Was those early days. I was really early on Instagram video when Instagram first launched a video. I was going hard on that, and then I kind of knew if you wanted to make a living as a creator, you had to at that time. If you wanted to make a living as a creator, you needed long form YouTube video. So I was all in on YouTube, and that was a big part of my social media career was just long form YouTube videos.
What was the deciding factor when you noticed like you went from that job you quit back to juggling, that you were like, oh, this is going to be the career path that I'm in? Like, when did you notice that?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely took a while. Like there was a long. It was probably like a 2-year transition of like, do I keep trying to reach out to these halftime shows to make some money, or do I need to really focus on the YouTube stuff? And I just feel like probably our first, you see what's possible, especially on long form YouTube used to be a little bit more stable, to where it was like, you know, when one video did really well, it would bring up your whole channel, and then you could start to hit those view thresholds and monetization thresholds to where it was like, oh, like we're earning some real money every month. And so I feel like it was probably around the time where we probably hit our first video that kind of carried us for a month or two, where it was like, oh wow, we're making a few $1,000s a month doing videos and having fun and not traveling anywhere. Because at the time it was like, for me to make money, I had to get on an airplane and go do something. And to the idea of being able to stay at home, make a video, have fun, was just so appealing. I just think that was probably that first, you know, million view YouTube video probably.
So then that point happened. Was that just you and your wife, or you by yourself, or?
I did YouTube solo. I also knew I did not want to be a juggler. I knew that was not sustainable for a career on YouTube. So I launched World Record Wednesdays, where I broke a world record every Wednesday. Mm-hmm. Some of them were trick shots, some of them were whatever, and it was a lot of collabing with other talented people in my Rolodex of like performer friends or whatever. And that was going okay. And then I randomly found like a friend of a friend who was just really funny on camera and like liked making videos, and I did not know him. His name is Jake Triplett. He lives in Kansas City. He works with and for Trey Kennedy now, who's a huge creator. But Jake, I didn't know him. I just like, hey, you're funny. I'm trying to do YouTube. Will you move into my house and make YouTube videos with me? And so Jake and I grinded on YouTube together for that first year and got to the 100K together. Wow. And he really helped me get out of my shell on camera, because I was a little bit more, a little bit more shy, and he was kind of the ham. And so it was the two of us that we got to about 100K, and then he left to pursue other stuff and is crushing it now. But for a while, it was the two of us. Then it was my wife. And then we moved back to LA from Dallas. And then when I got back to LA, I kind of had a whole cast of people I could choose from, and had, you know, a lot of people that you've seen in my videos over the last several years.
I think we've discovered in like a short form world that you can go viral a lot quicker now.
Oh yeah.
The thresholds of numbers and followers and stuff mean different things, because it's like TikTok, if you get to 100,000 versus 100,000 on YouTube, or two different.
But even YouTube now, to get a 100K YouTube plaque used to be like, oh wow, you put blood, sweat, and tears into that, and now it's like you could have posted one video.
Yeah, we've seen that. Like we were talking about that, where there's like certain things in different niches. Where on the Pokemon card world, I've discovered if you open packs, you can get one video can get you to 100 or 100,000. So then you move back to LA and everything, and you're making more videos and you're setting more world records, right?
Yeah. I think we're still doing. I did World Record Wednesdays, and it was World Record Wednesdays. Like my son will ask to watch videos now, and like I'll hear myself doing my outro saying new videos coming every Monday, every Wednesday, every Saturday, and I'm just like, how did I do that? Like I did 3 long form videos a week, and I didn't miss an upload. I think it was 4.5 years or something, 5 years.
Do you feel you still have to do that?
No, I think it's a bad idea now. Yeah.
So people do talk about that stuff, where it's like you got to make daily content, you got to do a thing every single day, and all that type of stuff. Is that so? You're not feeling like that is a necessity?
I just think the whole game has changed. I mean, I was so romantically tied to long form YouTube video because it's what had been my number one source of income for 5 years, 6 years, whatever it was, and then everything has shifted to shorts. The month that YouTube Shorts released, my views and earnings dropped by 30 or 40% that month, and then it dropped more and more, and I wouldn't let it go. I kept like beating the dead horse of trying to do long form videos until I finally just kind of gave in and started doing shorts, because I think YouTubers have been hurting a lot since the YouTube in particular, just talking about true like traditional, what you call a YouTuber, someone who's putting out long form videos once, twice, 3 times a week, whatever. There's been an epidemic of people quitting. They say they're burnt out. It's because they're not making money anymore. Like several friends of mine, like over millions of subscribers, quitting because they can't sustain what they were doing. But finally, I started as a shorts creator, because I told you I started on Instagram. But finally, I'm just like, all right, let's just put all of our effort into shorts, and it's working. Like it's I don't love it as much, but it's still fun, and it's still we're good at it, and it's what we do. And so now we're all in on shorts right now. But we are strategically planning our return to long form, and we have 3 videos in the bank right now. So we'll see, because I hope YouTube decides to start to reward those people that are multi faceted and posting both forms of content.
Well, it's a struggle too, because in the short form and long form world, because like, so where I started doing stuff, I made TikTok videos and it was immediate short form stuff. And I kind of went in a flip where I was like so tied to the short form game and wanting to figure out how to do long form stuff. And it's like, until you finding that balance to do both of them is very difficult, because it's even like doing this, it's like, this is fun, but it takes hours and travel and different things like that, versus I could go be like, I'm at Target and I'm gonna go, and I found a Pokemon pack, let's pull a $500 Pikachu. It's gonna get more views and more revenue probably quicker than something that
I've noticed. The ultra long form, like what we're doing, is also good. Like anything over 30 minutes seems to be doing well.
But I like to tell, like, that's why I'm talking to you too, because it's just like, I think people don't understand, like, you're doing regular content, you're excited about it, and you found in that short form world like something that is fun and that is sustainable and working for your business and everything. But it's not everything. It's not what it seems like. It maybe not be like fully what you're super excited about every time, but you found the answer to keep you going.
And a big thing I've learned just about my life in general is I really love the process of things. I think when we haven't really touched on collectibles at all, but like when I got deep into Pokemon cards, I was obsessive as like way more than any kid that I knew. Like I had the crate, of my friend group. But then when I got back into it, when a lot of people did, I was a little bit earlier. Like it was before the Logan Paul COVID stuff had hit, but I got back into like the idea, like the process of grading the card, like just like seeing all of the, like I knew so much about it from being a kid, but like the process of like, oh, I could take this card, grade it, sell it, do whatnot. Like, there was just like the whole process of everything was what was almost as interesting and to me. And I think right now the process of cracking the code of short form video is what I love about it. And same with long form. It's like I'm not a artistic video creator. Like I'm someone that is, we've done it on talent and on good ideas, but more than anything, I've enjoyed the process of like, what do we need to do to make this work? And I think that's all. If it sounds like I'm a cheesy motivational speaker or whatever, but if you don't like, I feel like if you don't like the process, like you're not going to be successful, because you need to figure out how to crack the code for it to work.
Personally, where I've made stuff that I love what I made, and then it will just not perform, and then you see other things that are successful for people, and you're like, man. And then I've done that where I'm like, okay, well, that's worked, let me go try to make something like that, and I hate everything about it up to that point. And then it's like, then that doesn't hit, and I'm like, well, I made something I hated that didn't work. And then I go, okay, I'll just start making stuff that I just want to make. And that's kind of what you have to do, right? Was there a struggle in that long form to short form, like as soon as you were kind of going?
I mean, financially, yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm curious about.
I mean, I had like my, and you were sitting in the warehouse. Like it was really unfortunate. Like it was, I had almost no fixed cost. I had an editor, who I had my same editor for almost 4 years, and until recently, where I got the warehouse. It's been over 2 years now. So two years ago, I got the warehouse, and I hired 3 guys that come in person to help me make videos. And so all of a sudden, I went from no expenses to some serious fixed costs, and then we've been in the warehouse for 2 months, and then Shorts released, and my income, I had my worst year in 5 years or something like that. So yeah, it's been tough. I'm just now, there was a point not that long ago where I was like, I guess I'm done. Like I'm gonna start looking into other avenues. And luckily we have a little bit more legs right now, and the shift from Shorts has helped a little bit. I think it's still tough to sustain. So I'm trying to always come up, always trying to figure out what's next. But yeah, the transition was super tough.
But it seems like it's getting. We're
good for now.
Yeah.
But again, if you're going to be a creator, you need to just be ready. Like I think so many people, there was this whole the generation 1.5 of TikTok creators, short form creators, who were also getting in on the Reels bonus, whatever, were moving to LA and living their life based off Instagram bonuses. And I'm like, this is not ad revenue. This is a bonus program that's going to leave. And it left, and they were all like, oh, moving back home. I was like, what did you think was going to happen? So if you're not being strategic and careful and getting ready for the next thing, like it's a tough thing. I think being a creator in general, like I think it gets a bad rap of like, oh, these guys just they're so easy. They just get to have fun, and it is so stressful, and it is always changing. Nothing is guaranteed, and that top whatever percent, I think, may or may not have it a little bit easier because they hit the right video that just jump starts their entire life or forever. But I think the majority of people are constantly trying to run away from the Indiana Jones boulder of death.
We're beholden to an algorithm that we don't fully understand, and we don't get to see behind the curtain really. You'll do certain things. It's like I went to that event I was talking about where it's like make good stuff, and you're like, okay, well, what's good? And you're like, I don't know. And it's like kind of going, if you went to a doctor, and this is a video somebody made, so I'm stealing it and I'll tag her so she knows, but she's like, if you went to a doctor and they were like, just get healthy, you're kind of like, what does that mean? And they're like, no, just get healthy, do better. And you're like, oh geez. So it really becomes a thing where you have to love that process. Like you said, we're just sitting there being like, well, I like this video and it didn't really do very well, or it did well. Why did it do well? And then let's try to recreate that. But I did that with the thing I was really fascinating to me recently was I was doing that thing where I was handing the photos to celebrities. I was like, hey, sign this thing. And the first two and all the ones after, fantastic. Some of the best performing things I did. I'm like, cool, let's do the third one. Used more higher profile people. Like we had like Chuck Norris in it and stuff. Oh, wow. And it was the worst performing one. And then you even run into RPM stuff. Like, I don't know what you can talk about with that. Oh, man. But dude, we made the first video, and the RPM on it was on TikTok.
I have so many theories on this, but go ahead.
I want to say it was like 82 cents or something like that.
Yeah, which is insane, by the way.
So, oh, I'm sure. Yeah. And then I ran the second video, and it was, I want to say it was 48 or something. It was like cut in half. And I'm like, how did it cut in half? Why did I do that? And again, just beholden to these random numbers and stuff. It's very tough to sustain your life like that.
Yeah, of course. So I'll come after me, TikTok. I don't care. My conspiracy theory with that is I think you get cut off towards the end of the month. Because again, this is a bonus. This is not ad revenue, from what I understand. So they can do whatever they want. My RPMs are always higher the first 10 days of the month. So I've stopped posting at the end of the month because why waste a good video?
Yeah.
And I've also seen stuff where it's people, groups of my friends that are all crushing it. No matter how good or how many views they do, they can't hit like over $5,000 to $7,000 a month on TikTok, no matter what. And they'll say their RPMs goes crazy. They start to make their last 28 days is in that 5,000 to 7,000, and then all of a sudden 1 cent RPM.
Wow.
Which I had my craziest when those dropping videos first started. My video they started my RPMs are never anything close to 20 or 80 cents. Like mine are like my good ones are 20 cents.
Wow. Yeah. Is it just a volume because of like
it's volume, and it's also I think the audience that they're reaching probably not always
interesting.
I don't need English speakers to enjoy my videos.
Got it.
But then, yeah, I literally have a 80 million view video or something that has 1 cent RPM, and so it's like, oh, that would have been nice. Had I had 80, I could have bought a house.
Yeah, I had a video maybe like on a lower, like decent performing thing, probably like 100,000 views or something, and it had an RPM of like 1.2, like $1.20, and I was like, oh, this is great, but then you get 7 million views, and
it's crazy. So yeah, that's
do you run into the same thing on YouTube too, or is it a little bit more?
YouTube's pretty similar. It's between 2 and 10 cents, so I've never seen anything.
But it's been consistent.
12, yeah. But we do notice things like adding more text helps it. More English words. We just say, hey, we need more English words on this video. So just like in my dropping videos, I will just say the name of the object I'm dropping in text in the app, and that like doubles the RPM.
I watched a video. I can't remember who's the girl with the glasses that's been super viral. Do you know Jenny?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you know who I'm talking about. Yeah. Obviously, somebody else will know. They'll be like, but she was talking about something with like readability score. I watched a video, and that was really interesting. Is that a thing that you've noticed if you've like not for lack of a better term, like dumbed it down, but like turned it to easily more consumable for a younger audience? Is it hitting better?
Yeah, we always Again, my videos are different. Like we are going for virality. So yeah, we always say like, can this video be enjoyed by a 5-year-old kid in another country?
Yeah.
And so yeah, that is readability. That's complex of speech. We don't do a ton. We had more, different videos with different amounts of talking in it. But yeah, we always try to keep it super simple.
It sounds silly, but you have the concept of, I've got one basketball hoops. How many does it fall through? Yeah. Basically, that's what your new short form thing is. That's been working for you. That and variations of it. Yeah. There's a lot of complexity that sounded like that got you to that point. So what's the process with that video, or
with that specific series?
That type of stuff, because I think it's interesting, because you were like, it doesn't have to be it can be consumed by a 5-year-old in a different nation, and that broadens your audience so much. Right. You clearly weren't just like,
and again, I'll specify 5-year-old in it, but then also a 35-year-old in the United States. Sure. So like the idea is have it be enjoyed by anyone, but it be simple enough for anyone to enjoy, basically, is the thought there.
But I'm saying like specifically there is a process, and it's not just being like, oh, we're just having fun. And I think that's what people. Yeah.
So, I mean, those videos in particular, we dissect every single one of those to the point of no return. Our big thing and my biggest advice for anyone doing short form video is frame 1 is what we say. What is your frame 1 of the video? That is your thumbnail now. That is your attention grab now. Frame 1 can, depending on the kind of video you're doing, can mean the first 1 second, but we talk about frame 1.
Interesting.
So it is cutting every possible fraction of a second to the best possible hook for what you're doing, for what is set up. And then like, even for that series in particular, like that first drop is like, I say it as it's leaving my hand, because some of them might do a little bit slower because I do want longer videos. But that first one, if we think it's going to be our hook, which again, we'll drop a bunch of things and we'll pick and choose which one is the best hook, but based on how many it goes through or whatever happens. But yeah, we obsess over the first frame or first second.
Okay. So yeah, I'm saying that your process there is reflective of the view count. Like when you get tens of millions of views on a video, I feel like people see the end result and they're happy. They're like, oh, this is cool. Like, I want all this, but then they don't, like you said, they don't want to go through that process. They just want virality is what I don't know. It's obviously not everybody.
Yeah, no. And then it's, I mean, one thing I told myself as soon as we started to short form, I was just like, because it's a big mistake I feel like I made over my career was something would dominate on long form video, and I would say, okay, cool. The audience must want something different now.
Yeah.
Right? Like I would want to wow them with something new and creative when I should have changed one idea, one micro adjustment of the video and done the same thing until it stops working. That is by far my biggest mistake.
That is my biggest weakness as well. I can't begin to tell you. So like, I'm the type of person, I've always grown up like, I want variety. Like, I don't hardly ever rewatch a movie.
Yeah.
Like, I'll watch a movie and be like, got it, cool. I'm going to go to the next one.
Yeah.
And it is so difficult to discover, hey, this is a good video, and somebody wants another of that. Yeah. And for my, as a creative brain, I go, oh, I don't want to make another
it's
one.
Hard.
That is difficult. So how have you dealt with that?
I mean, I just told myself, I was like, the next thing that hits, I'm going to double down on it. And then after I'm done doubling down, we're going to try to make it slightly different, which is, the dropping has been obviously the best example. Like we did aluminum foil, and then we're like, all right, what else can we do? We started popping balloons and started doing the same thing, and then even totally switching it, but using the same scoring system of having those emojis on the side, and like that tickles a part of the brain that I think works. So then we started doing the emojis, but with a totally different trick shot video, and like that works well. And then it's how can you go 80% what's working, 20% trying something new. Mm-hmm. So where you can keep them alive. Keep the channel doing well, keep the views and the money going while experimenting to see, okay, now we got 2 series, now we have 3 series, now we have 4 series that we can keep going, and just testing stuff out. Because
I think getting into that series mindset too is where it's, so that makes sense in my brain.
Yep.
Go, here's 10 of them.
And having a series, like it's interesting for creativity. It's like limiting yourself can also make the creative process so much easier to where it can make you more creative because you've fixed yourself in these these parameters, mm-hmm. and then it actually it's like, oh wow, if I'm only thinking about this, and then you can start boom 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 when you think of 10 creative ideas. It's like, oh, I can't do that. But then 10 versions of this, then, oh, wow, like we can do this.
Yeah.
And, you know, so definitely having series and reoccurring segments or whatever it is, it can unlock a lot of creativity and success because you have given yourself parameters to go by.
What I've discovered specifically in the Pokemon world, you get certain people will get viral on something, and then all of a sudden everybody just thinks you're copying them, even if you've been around for a little bit. How, like, is that something that you've run into as well?
Mean, my entire life. Yeah. I mean,
how do you deal with that?
You just don't have to. You need to not worry about it as long as you're, you know, can honestly feel like you're not doing it, which I think opening cards is silly. I know what you're talking about. Everyone thinks you're Pat Flynn for opening a pack of cards, which is insane. But yeah, I mean, I started doing trick shots. So me throwing a basketball into a hoop was copying Dude Perfect, who did not invent trick shots, right? So I mean, the amount of comments I've had that said you're copying Dude Perfect, if I had to put a number on it, like placing a bet, is probably 15,000 or something silly. You know, it's just like you're copying Dude Perfect, and now, you know, we've been doing the like destruction and balloon type stuff, and then we're doing races with balloons, which, or even layers. You know, and now I'm getting the, you know, Temu version of How Ridiculous, because we're doing layers and popping balloons. And like, I will admit, like they kind of launched a whole new format for these short form videos of these races, but we're doing it completely different. It's not an actual race. We're taking turns. It's more trick shotty, and so, but, you know, it is what it is. And as long as you are, I haven't read it. I've heard lots of friends talking about the book called Steal Like an Artist, where, you know, you steal, the basic idea of the book is just like, you know, all art, you know, the art wouldn't progress if you're not taking advice from other people, or taking inspiration from other people. So as long as you're stealing and putting your own spin on it, stealing a concept, a hook, you know, and not the full thing, because I do think there's Pokemon creators that are having little jingles and stuff, right? They're like doing it frame for frame. Like, I think that's what's bad. And as soon as the first aluminum foil drop video did 200 million views on Instagram, and as soon as it happened, and then it did 100 million on YouTube, and I was like, oh, it's gonna happen. And 5 days later, 15 days later, 30 days later, 60 million view YouTuber, or 60 million subscriber YouTuber, 30 million subscriber YouTuber, 30 million follower TikToker are all doing dropping stuff through hoops. Yeah. And I knew it, and it's just kind of a thing where I was like, yeah, it's gonna be fine. Like, it doesn't impact me that much, so there's no point in crying about it. So
I see people that are smaller content creators, or they're trying to get a following, and they turn into, oh, I've just got to copy that person to do the thing, and then they don't get the results. There's a big trend, especially in like this collectibles community, where they talk about being super hyper focused on daily content. Make sure you post a thing every day. Make sure you do this and do this.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing about posting often is that it's more swings at bat, both for the algorithms, but also just for you to learn. And so I think getting consistent is good. Finding out what's sustainable for you is good, but posting just to post every day is not good. I don't think. If you know, if you're posting bad videos, if you're posting and not learning from your wins or loses, that's not good. So just the grind of posting and posting and posting is only good if you're like putting some strategy behind it.
Yeah, and if you like it, I mean, it goes back to all that stuff we were saying. That's and it's a whole different world now of like, when you were early on, it's like whenever I started making videos and you started making videos, live shopping and things like that didn't exist. Whatnot wasn't there. None of those things existed. And that is a whole different world that we've discovered from the collectibles community. So you're talking about collectibles and stuff. Tell me a little bit about your like passion behind that too, because it's all different. It's a whole different world.
Yeah, I would say I've been a lifelong collector. Like, as an 8-year-old kid, I've loved just going to antique shops and buying stuff that I thought were cool. Like, now I probably would say like they were cultural. You know, I've like had an eye for like stuff that was like culturally relevant, and so was big in Pokemon, big on other stuff as a kid, and then, but even as I got older, like was always just collecting weird knickknacks. You know, you saw my office; I have all sorts of weird stuff in there. That's the same way. And then like when I kind of sniffed it out that it was about to hit, I was like, this will be fun. Like, I love the process of it, and went hard with that for a while.
That was the same way. It's fun to like when I talk with people like you, because I still do that. I go to flea markets. Like,
right. It's a weird tick over there. There's like a weird Winnie the Pooh animated thing that we saw in the because we're going to thrift shops all the time now for dropping weird stuff, and I saw that for $9, and I was like, I guarantee you this is worth something. $150 all day on eBay. And I'm like, oh wow, yeah. So it's like, that's just always been me. And I was also really early on eBay. Like the process of like being able to buy something for this much and sell it for this much has always been interesting to me. I'm definitely a collector, but I'm also like an entrepreneur, and like that whole side of it has just always been interesting. So got back into Pokemon cards. Ryan from Ryan's Card House. I like bought a Charizard from him, and he was going to open a Shadowless box and was in town. And so we did a Shadowless box break. I think it was the day, or it was like the week that Logan did his first. So it was like right in the hype of it. And someone from Whatnot saw that video, and they were like, hey, we're about to start launching Pokemon cards on Whatnot. Like, do you want to be one of our first sellers? And I think it was Dr. Applesauce and me were the first two people that were allowed to sell Pokemon cards on Whatnot. So middle of COVID, doing that was like printing money for a while.
Yeah, it really was.
And it was the Wild West of Pokemon, where some of that stuff was like almost, I felt bad. It was just like you would get my hands on a booster box for $90 or $100 or whatever, and every pack was going for $40, $50. And I know that's still happening today, but like back then it was even crazier.
It was a really weird, like early. I wasn't as early as you, but I got in there relatively early on Whatnot, and I remember, man, I think it was XY Breakthrough, the one with like Mewtwo, and it was a thing where I just would put it up for auction, and like you said, you would just print money in the Wild West days, and it was just wild. And I would give people extra stuff because I was like, shoot, these are. Oh, I want to make sure I don't treat you right. But it was that whole content world in Pokemon, like early days, like that's when I did TikTok. There was a time when I would live stream, and being from Kansas City in the Midwest, finding cards is very easy. Like I could go to a small town Walmart 30 minutes away, fully stocked, and everybody else couldn't find anything. So I had a little bit of that advantage where I could just go find things. So I would just go live and rip stuff before rip and ships really were a thing, before you could sell on there. And there was one time I had like 40,000 people watching on a TikTok stream, and I was like, I can't stop. And I think I ended up ripping like $3,000, $5,000 worth of stuff just to keep the people going.
There was, just to remind me, there was a time when I don't even think it was Musical.ly before TikTok. Mm-hmm. There was a time I was so early on Musical.ly. This was right before it turned to TikTok, where every time I went live, everyone who owned the app got a notification that I went live. It was like the same thing where I was just like, oh, I was not expecting 40,000 people on this right now. What do I do? And I didn't have anything to rip. Sorry, that was just a weird little thing I was reminded of.
But it's a whole different world now. Like when I was one of those early Pokemon people on TikTok, like I go on my phone and sometimes I scroll all the way down where I'm like, I go up to a Dollar Tree and I'm like, I'm a Dollar Tree, and they've got Celestial Storm, like an old. And I'm like, that's my video. And I'm like, it's so different now, where you have to be very story driven. You have to be very intentional and go through that process. It was in the TikTok era of short form, and the early Whatnots and shopping stuff was crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, I feel like I've totally missed Whatnot, and like a TikTok shop. I feel the same thing. I feel the same thing about it now, missing that boat. But like, was crushing it on Whatnot, but I was like, oh, this is just something I'm going to do once a week. Like, this is just my little like COVID side hustle. I don't want to, this isn't going to be my thing. Like, I'm a YouTuber, whatever. And then we had my son, and Whatnot was the first thing to go out the window as far as just like what I could handle as a dad and doing this. And I was like, I'll come back once we get through him, like being, a baby. And I probably took 3 or 4 months off of Whatnot. And when I came back, it was just a different, like they had opened the gates for who's allowed to join. And everyone that was doing it was going every day for like 6 hours a day. And I was like, oh, I can't compete. And then like, I was trying to go, like, I just lost it. And then I was losing money on the stream. So I was like, all right, that was fun for a while. Yeah. And that was the end of my career on Whatnot for the most part.
That's kind of what happened to me too. It was like the people, it's like everything, like you do stuff, and when it's easier, you don't have to like really put in all that work. And then all of a sudden more people get better at it. And then I would see people 24-hour live stream. They'd have a stream team and they'd swap people out. And I was like, I'll do stuff event based where I'm like, I'll do something for fun. But
towards the end of my time on Whatnot, I did a Rocket first edition box break. And I was like, this is gonna be my fun little thing. And I I think I profited $120 for risking a $15,000 box. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I was sweating the whole time. Like, and yeah, it was scary when other people could do it and quadruple their money or whatever, you know.
All goes back to that consistency. Like, hey, you're there all the time. Yeah. You're scheduled. They know you're a new show that's coming up like every Monday at 10 o'clock. Yeah. You know, so-and-so's there. Right. So I get it. I understand the thing. It's just, I'm a personal thing where the whole packing, shipping and all that stuff.
That was a lot too.
I'm like, all that and for $50 or whatever. I was like, whoa. Yeah. I'd rather spend my time figuring out a fun video to do.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a lot. And so like that was kind of where I was like, oh yeah. And then Pokemon kind of caught up. You know, it wasn't hard to find product. It was harder to like grade, and you know, I've always been a grader as well, like always grading hundreds of cards and doing that hustle. But then I feel like there was kind of a lull in that. I was like, and so I kind of stopped doing all things business side of collectibles. I was still buying stuff just for fun because I like it. But then that's when like Alpha Clash came up, kind of fell in my lap.
Can you explain what Alpha Clash is? Because whenever I ran into it, Ridge is Ridge the CEO and creator, right? Yeah. I ran into Ridge and he was at a Collecticon, and back in early 2020, I believe, or right, it was late 2020 whenever indie TCG was booming. It was like there was MetaZoo, oh gosh, I honestly can't remember everything right now because they don't exist anymore, and that's
dead. Yeah.
Exactly. So I saw Ridge, met him, loved the way it looked, and was just like, this seems like something that is really, really cool and different.
The one-liner is super powered trading card game. It is the story, which is a big thing for us. It's not just the card game. There's also the whole story. You know, it's more than a superhero story. It's more of like a story of survival. So basically, there's this thing called the pull, and it gives people these powers, and they feel the need to battle each other. And there's kind of some of Earth's, people that are already on Earth that are trying to survive these alpha clashes that happen, you know, over the history of all time, happen on different planets, and you know, it's a whole planetary Hunger Games type of vibe where they're battling for this planet. So we launched with a graphic novel to first lay out the story, and then the trading card game. And today, filming is our 2-year anniversary of launching a Kickstarter, which is pretty cool. Yeah. And so we launched on Kickstarter 2 years ago, and we're currently on our 4th set. And we've also put out a 500-page chapter book and our comic series number 1. So we're very invested in the lore. We're very invested in our organized play. We're still at a point, I think, because what you were saying of all these indie TCGs that were really hyped and then died, and people got screwed on it, right? Like, how many people lost money on MetaZoo, right?
Well, what made you think this was one that was going to work when you got connected to it?
Yeah, I mean, I just thought the quality was really, really high. I loved the way it looked. I did my due diligence of talking to people that were third party that said the game itself is really good. I liked the team members. Ridge Ridge will die before this thing is not a success, and I could kind of see that. And I mean, everything impressed me enough for me to be financially invested in it. That's cool. But yeah, we're very much a player's game right now. We would love more collectors. It is a very collectible, beautiful game, right? Like the collectors should love it. I feel like too many people got burnt early on because we were a little bit after some of these big indie ones where people got burnt. So people were already a little nervous to invest on the singles collectible side of it. But we're starting to get there. We're starting to see more and more of it, which is exciting. Seeing some of these cards get graded and stuff has been great. But the players community is huge, and it's been really great. Like we did $175,000 in prizing for our organized play, which a lot of games aren't able to do or don't do. And we're about to have our first pro tour here in December at ClashCon. We're having our own event, which is exciting too. And it's been again, I love the process of it all, but it's been a crazy learning experience, crazy thing to be a part of over these last 2 years. Because I joined 6 months or so before we launched on Kickstarter, so I was very, very early, but not from the total inception, but before quite a bit before we launched.
There's a graveyard of TCGs
Yeah.
that don't exist.
Yeah, and I think that's our biggest flex right now is like our little cohort of indie TCGs. Like Sorcery is doing well, and
I don't know, Flesh and Blood, is that?
They're where we want to be. They're where we want to be. Like they're a success. They've made it. They're not. I don't think a game like Flesh and Blood will ever be a Pokemon or Magic the Gathering, but I think they are a very successful game. We would love to get to where we're as big as Flesh and Blood. I think our game is much more collectible than Flesh and Blood. I think it is much more thing where just the art and that sort of thing. So I think we could, because Flesh and Blood is very much just a player's game. Like there's not a lot of collectability in that.
All the art is always it's good, but specifically for me and what I like, this reminded me of things like the Avengers. This reminded me of superhero stuff, and that's what I loved growing up as a kid. I was never and still never like into the like wizards and goblins and demons and types of thing like that, and that's what you see a lot in Magic, Flesh and Blood, other types of stuff. So that's something that I think it's like fascinating to see a TCG that is in that different world.
Yeah, and it is different, and it's like I think it's not anime, and it's not anime, and it's not that goblins and art that exact art style that are those several games. So we are different, which is a good thing and a bad thing. I think if you launched a indie anime style TCG at that time with maybe a few women with some significant body parts, you were going to find huge success, and we didn't want to do that. We weren't going to do that. And so, slow and steady has been our path, and we're still growing, and we are literally, these other TCGs have put out statements that they're done. And so we're still going.
Well, what would you say to somebody who knows nothing about this? What would be the hook to get them in?
Anyone that sits down and plays that's their Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic, anyone that plays any of these games, they sit down and they're like, oh wow, like I get this and I love it. Like I'm not a player. I can muddle my way through a game of Alpha Clash because I learned because I needed to learn it, but I've never played anything. So it's not my jam. But anyone that sits down to play, they're like, this is the best game. Like one guy sat down at a convention. He was like, I didn't know who he was when he sat down. He came down and played, and he's like, I have won the championships of 4 different TCGs, and this is the best trading card game I've ever played. It was the first game. I was like, well. So like the game itself is very good. It moves quickly. We wanted it to feel like a superhero battle, so it goes back and forth. Any card is a resource. There's not a lot of like waiting around, drawing turns. It's just very exciting. Moves fast. And then I think the art, as we said, is the reason why you collect it. Why the collectors who are collecting it are doing so is because the art is beautiful. We do not skimp on art. We have lots of incredible artists, and just I obviously I have a bias, but it was also why I joined. Like I think it's the best looking trading card game out there.
You have a bias, but you have a bias now. Initially, you were like, you got interested into it, so you're like, oh, there's a natural interest that got you to it. Yeah. So I think it's really cool. Like I, again, just continue to think through all these processes and things that we've kind of talked through: content creation, TCG stuff, collectibles, content, and everything. It's like the world is extremely different now than it was 4 years ago when everything went crazy. Even seeing cycles, like we've been seeing, the Pokemon world is like getting somewhat of a little new boom now. There's
the market. Yeah, it's wild right now. I still keep up with all of it. It's like, because I'm always like I don't know if it's like I'm good at that. Like if I've always said, like, honestly, when I was talking about social media doing poorly, I'm like, I can almost guarantee I can make a full-time living doing the card flipping thing. Not even live streaming, just like buying and selling cards. I know I could do it. But what's happening in Pokemon right now makes no sense to me, and I haven't moved on it because I cannot bring myself to risk the modern Pokemon prices. Like the idea that you can have a pop 9,000 card that came out a year ago going for the prices they're going for is insane to me. Yeah. So I have not touched it with a 12-foot pole because I'm nervous, and it keeps proving me wrong. So I could had I believed in it. I knew I believed in it. I saw it coming, and I just wouldn't do it. But had I done it, I could have made some real money in Pokemon. Because
it's really crazy because like you're probably talking about like the Umbreon and stuff like.
But even some of the other cards. Like,
well, I know, yeah. Because it's like even we just my son pulled that Pikachu from the new set.
Yeah.
And I got it graded, got a 9 and stuff like that. And I think a 9 sold for like $800 as of us recording now. And I'm like, there's no way that
Yeah.
seems like it's gonna
Yeah.
be anywhere near that in 3 to 6 months.
Right.
I just can't process that. But it's like that Umbreon is one of the most fascinating things in my opinion, because it's like a modern card from a set that is not necessarily that inaccessible to find. Booster boxes are crazy,
Yeah.
but
and
you know
could always have another reprint.
exactly. And they're in random stuff that like people know the codes, you know,
Yeah.
in the tins of what to buy and everything. So you in theory could get access to that at a decent rate, but then the card was like a pop 10,000 for a PSA 10.
Right.
It's
wild.
and it's
which
just,
is like higher than so like the price there. And it doesn't make sense. Like I feel like the rules of collectible are the older, the best condition, and the rarest, right? Like those are the three things. Like you want it to be old, you want it to be rare, and you want it to be good condition. And yes, it's in good condition, but it is not rare and it is not old.
it's not.
What's your favorite card that you have?
I really liked the when I first got back into Pokemon, I was just I was going for the oldest and the high, you know, the oldest and the rarest and the best condition. So I have like some PSA 10, Top Sun, and Cardus.
Oh yeah.
So I really my favorite sets of all time is 1997 Cardus.
Yeah, I love those.
And then I also really have always liked Top Sun. That they've fallen from grace a little bit after more information, but I've like a PSA 10 Pikachu Blue Back, and some of those are my favorites.
I think that stuff was fun. That was something I honestly didn't know existed
Yeah.
until I started making
Yeah.
content, and was just like, before it became before base set, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
there's all these things even before that in Japan.
Yeah.
I really didn't know they
Yeah,
existed.
and I also really liked the vending series. I was like one of my first big purchases when I got back into. It was weird. I like really went for the weirdest stuff when I got back into Pokemon. I bought a box of vending sheets. Back they're crazy expensive now, but I bought them for not that much, and I bought a second box. So we peeled one for a live stream or something. Like there's like two seals inside of them, so I have a box and a half of vending sheets still. And I love that Pikachu, which again has gotten more popular lately.
When you were able to fund that stuff, for like you bought all those weird things, were you funding that just through strictly monetization, or is it involve brand deals and other things like that? Because again, it's not cheap, but we have to make content to fuel our hobby, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah. How did that go?
I mean, when I was just buying Pokemon cards,
No, I'm just curious. Yeah.
I mean,
how do you
historically, like my income has been 50% ad revenue, 50% brand deals, as far as social media is concerned. And those are my two, still are my two biggest sources of it. I don't know where the split is right now, but probably pretty similar.
Yeah. How does the brand deals usually work for you? I'm curious about it.
It's been great. Again, I was early on it, so it was easier back then before everyone was we talked about that a little bit before we started filming. Now that everyone is a creator, it's so much easier for brands to find cheap or free influencers.
Yes.
So that kind of, it makes it harder, but there's still some agencies out there that are still know to pay, they still know to pay well to have the right creators and content done. So I mean, it's just been a big focus of mine since the very beginning. I've always been really focused on being cross-platform. I grow all my platforms at once. I'm never just focused on one. So able to upsell them on multiple posts and multiple videos, and I mean, it's been a big focus for forever.
Is it a thing that you've seen where on a brand deal side that it's been a struggle to, I guess for lack of a better term, convince a brand on money? And the reason why I say that is because like I've run into where I see that a lot of influencers will come in, promise the world, promise virality, promise views, all this stuff. Oh, you're going to make a 20 million views if I post this thing, pay me, 5 figures for this video, and then nothing happens. And then they just are like, cool, great, thanks. And then the brand has lost the money off of an influencer. And then it struggles for people that are legitimate to actually get revenue from that versus having to do free work.
I think there was definitely a wave of them hiring lots of these influencers that didn't know what they're doing, that weren't charging much, and then there was, or they were charging a lot, and then the results were really bad. So I think that was part of it, but then also just the economy and whatever has impacted brand deals over the last few years. But right now I'm feeling good about it. And, I always try to make my brand deals the best possible video. That's another thing I've seen people over the years of like, oh, well, I don't want the video to do it. Like they've hired me. I don't want it to be shown on my timeline. So I'm going to do a bad video, or I'm going to post at 11 PM. They didn't say anything about me when I had to post. And so I've had influencers telling me they try to purposely sink their brand deal. I do the opposite. I try to make it as good as possible. I'm annoying if you're in my contacts on Instagram. I DM it to all my friends. Hey, drop a like and comment on this. Like I want them to do well.
Why would they want to sink the brand deal?
Because they don't want to upset their followers.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you need to make money, obviously.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah,
I never
it's
even
backwards thinking, but I think that's shifted. That was probably an older thing. I think now people almost want to flex when they have a brand deal, which again, I think a lot of people now are happy to take a free deal because they get to show that they're an influencer doing brand sponsorships, which is not how it should be.
It seems that way. Back in my day, we used to shoot weddings, and I see the parallels in these worlds where it's like you're a contractor, you need money, you got to hustle and do that stuff. And then it's like you put all this work into working and setting up a wedding with a coordinator and everything, and you drop a price. And then they go, oh, well, I've got an uncle who's got a camera. And that's the fight that I continue to see in that industry. And that's why we don't do it anymore, because we didn't like it. But now we like this thing, but I could see the parallels. It's like, hey, if you're X amount of dollars for a video, well, this guy over here who has more following on TikTok or YouTube or whatever, will do it for free.
Yeah, I definitely had some people make ridiculous requests, and I just saying no is a very powerful thing. I think that's it's something that influencers are scared to do because they are worried it's going to lead to no leads later, or they're going to upset the brand, or they want to prove themselves once and then come back more. Like, saying no makes you, once you get in the rhythm of saying no, it makes you feel really good. Yes, and it helps you. It's going to help you. And you got to learn when to say no.
Yeah. I think it's again, they feel if they say no, then they're going to get nothing out of it. But it's like you're getting paid nothing. Right. Just like if a big corporation wants to take advantage of you, then you saying yes, they're just going to keep doing it.
Yeah. I do think something that has shifted now is all the brand, back when I was doing it, sometimes I wouldn't even have to tag a brand because brands weren't on Instagram or whatever. Like it was just like we were paying, they were paying us to promote and go to a website or whatever. And now every brand obviously is online and has their own accounts. And so another thing I'm trying to do more of is offer to create content for their platforms too. And so that's another like tip I think you could pitch for brands right now is like, oh, I see you guys. You say it nicer than this, but like, hey, you guys suck at social media. Like, can I help you with, can I provide you 3 videos a month for this much? That's another thing I think brands need right now. And for them to hire agencies is super expensive. So
a lot of the times a corporation or something will be like, we have to do this very stilted corporate marketing thing and don't understand the content creation world the way that we do, especially in that grind. And it's like, I had a thing where a company would do, would have like Christmas stuff, and somebody would say, I want to do, we need to show the tree. And then we show the happy person in front of the tree. And they're like, you're blocking the tree. Like why are you putting the people in front of the tree? And they don't understand the emotions behind that stuff. Yeah. It's very interesting, how corporations don't process that. And that's something that, like you said, take advantage of is a really cool tool.
Yeah. And I think it is also interesting time right now too, because I feel like in this 8 or 9 years I've been doing brand deals and working with these agencies, it's like early on everyone was pretty stupid, including us probably. Like we didn't really know. It was new, and then there was a time where it was just like we knew what was a good brand deal video, the agencies knew what a good brand deal was, and we were grooving, and it was great. And now I feel like those people that were smart have gotten moved up. They're not influencer relations. They're they're higher up in their companies or whatever. And now there's been like a new generation of some of these agencies, like their job is to do influencer marketing and they just don't get it. And so it is your job to push back and tell them how to make a good brand deal.
I think in the next 3 to 5 years, it's going to be like the brands are going to be basically hiring a content creator to be full-time doing that stuff. That's what
it should be happening more. Yeah, I had a friend, Sophie Lightning, was she like won a contest to be TikTok ambassador or whatever for Nerf. Like it was a full-time job was to run the Nerf TikTok account. And like the fact that more brands, and it was a huge success, and the fact that more brands aren't doing that is silly. Like they need to be taking creators, because again, it's hard. Again, we've talked about it's hard to be a creator. I've been doing this for a long time. I'm desperate for stable income. Yeah. I have gotten huge high paying brand deals. What sounds way more appealing to me is something where they'll give me a tenth of that every month for 12 months. I will shake your hand so fast. So the ability to give creators some stability and give them a real job, and you get better content, I think it's a win-win. So we'll see if they catch on.
I couldn't agree more, man. So thanks for your time with all this. I really appreciate it.
Hopefully,
if they don't know, how do they find you?
Yeah, I don't juggle that much, but my handle is Jugglin' Josh, and you can type that into any platform.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Thank you.